Welcome to the Trotcast Revolution, presented by Diamond Creek Farms, a cut above. I'm your host, Jay Hawkseller, and I am joined always by...
always Ryan Macedonio. Jay, how you doing?
I'm very good. How about you?
I'm on, this isn't Trotcast Studios behind me.
You're road and tripping.
I am on the road. I have a busy 2 weeks. I am going to be covering Supercross and harness racing. I'm going to be in Atlanta and Tampa. On the track, doing stuff. Well, not on the track in Tampa, but Atlanta. I got full media access. I am excited. It'll be my first Supercross event, Atlanta Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I am super excited. So let's get this show out of the road because I got stuff to do. I got to film a bunch of 2-year-olds. I'm visiting a bunch of farms, seeing a bunch of stables, and keep them busy. That's what I do. Hey,
making money, kissing babies. That's what you do.
That's right. So, you ready to jump into the topic? Do you want to lead it, or you want me to go?
Well, it's kind of your original idea. I'm kind of the questionnaire person here.
Okay, so we're gonna try to navigate this. We didn't really have a meeting about it, but we just kind of said, what if trainers were separated into two classes, essentially? If you want to call them an A class and a B class or whatever, I don't care what the 1, 2. I don't care what the label is. We can figure that out later. But basically what it's saying is you separate tracks into A and B classes, and therefore you separate the trainers into A and B classes. I don't think, personally, now, I trained for a lot of years, and I think back to the times when I was training, and I had an ascension where I thought that early on in my career, I shouldn't have been able to race at certain tracks, like the Meadowlands, like Yonkers. I should have been able to earn my spot by winning at local tracks, Monticello, Saratoga, Tioga, things like that, and earn your spot and earn points into an ascension, into being allowed to race at some of the better tracks. So I think that's kind of how we want to do it. And basically, this kind of helps solve the beard situation with trainers just popping up and winning at some of our best racetracks. What do you think of this overall topic, Jay?
Yeah, that last part you mentioned is where I really like it. The original thing that I most like is that you take a guy that's winning like crazy, and he comes up with some pretty nefarious positives, and he has to get suspended for 6 months to a year, and all of a sudden Joe Schmo comes up who has 0 starts in the last 3 years as a trainer, and all of a sudden he's the top trainer at Yonkers. Well, that doesn't make much sense to me. Well, this would fix that, because then he couldn't just pop into Yonkers with a stable of 20 of them and all just start dominating everybody, because he doesn't have the tiered ranking to get into it.
Yeah, I think what it does, it solves a lot of issues, and I'm always looking at things from marketing and promotions, and this is a way, I know that it hurts short term and it'll hurt people short term, but I think that this is a way to help promote the sport as well, because you have a definitive line of where good trainers are and where not bad trainers, but inexperienced trainers. I think we want to go that route. You're just not experienced enough to race at Yonkers, at Meadowlands, at Pocono, at Hoosier, and we could, I think, having 8 tracks, is that kind of how we want to solidify it, Jay?
Yeah, well, I mean, you can just kind of go through the list here. You'd obviously have Yonkers, you'd obviously have Pocono, you'd obviously have the Meadowlands, and then you'd probably move on to, you take probably Hoosier, and probably, Scioto is probably, if you'd want an A track in Scioto, or in Ohio, Scioto would be the one.
Okay, and then Mohawk,
then you go to Canada. That Mohawk makes 6, I believe.
I mean, a whole nother thing for another day, but, we could say, you said obviously Meadowlands. That's a question for me. They're overnight racing. I'm not talking about their stakes program.
Yeah, but that's true. Okay,
that's a whole nother topic for another day. But
I could see that. Yeah, you're pretty spot on there. It's not the purse structure doesn't warrant really a tier 1 trainers at the moment.
And that kind of, should we split it into A-B stakes program versus A-B overnight racing? Because, sometimes, like take the Meadowlands, A+ on stakes, whatever grade you want to give it for their overnight program, but then you take a track like, what has really good overnights, but not as well in their Plain Ridge. Plainridge is a good example of, you know, B plus per structure, right? But
Yeah.
their stakes program is not good. So, do you think that we should do that separation right from the start?
You know, I think it's kind of tough to. I think you really have to look more at like the quality of horses, because as good as Plainridge's purse structure is, the racing is not particularly difficult. And
Okay.
just to kind of add on to that, I mean, there are horses from Vernon Downs which is unarguably a B track. They go to Plainridge and they do exceedingly well. So
Okay.
it's
Fair enough. So maybe we should just say A B track and that's it for right now.
yeah.
Okay, so A B track. So basically, what we're saying is, you get your trainer's license. We've tried to make the trainer's test harder. It's not going to happen. We tried to make more legitimacy and get rid of beards. It hasn't happened yet. So what we're basically saying is, you have to compete at every other track that isn't an A track. And I would say that an amount of wins, a win percentage, a UT training system, all of those things will add points to your, call it your resume, and you have to get a certain amount of points before you're allowed to get an A license. It's kind of we already have that with drivers, essentially. Why don't we have that with trainers? You have a P license, so why don't we have P trainers? Is that kind of where you think we should go with that, Jay?
Yeah, to be honest, I never even thought about that. How basically once you get your trainer's license, you can just go train wherever the hell you pretty much please, as long as your horses can relatively compete there. And it really kind of seems a little backwards. Any Joe Schmo that gets his trainer's license, which frankly is incredibly easy nowadays because anybody can pass the test because it's just not regulated well enough, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And so then they can go, to Yonkers, and yeah, you see it all the time that some Joe Schmo with no trainer record is winning a Yonkers Open or top Yonkers stake. That's just totally backwards.
Yeah, so if you have to put in a certain, each win, it doesn't, and I don't care if you're at a non-A track, if you're at a B track, and you get a win, I don't care what the purse is, what the class is, it's still a win, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And it was still, you did your job of getting that horse to the winner's circle. And listen, if it was second and third, you get some points. So should we do a win gets you 9 points, a second gets you 5 points, things like that, where you have to accumulate, let's say, 1,000 points before you're able to get an A license. I mean, 9 divided by 1,000, you're talking 100 wins. I think that's pretty fair, where you're restricted. You shouldn't be allowed to go to the big tracks until you have 50 wins, with a training average of 250, something in that range.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. You have to basically prove your worth there. You can't, it's kind of what I liken to like a PGA Tour. You don't just because you think you're a good golfer and you've been dominating some small stuff, you don't automatically get to enter yourself into a PGA Tour event. Mm-hmm. You have to work your way up, get your Q license, and then go to a different tour, win some of that. You can't just dive right in just because oh man, I've been shooting 65 on my local course.
So let's play devil's advocate. I know you're good at this. So what are some concerns? The immediate concern I have is maybe second trainers wanting to leave a stable, and this kind of puts a sort of hindrance where maybe if an owner wants to support a second trainer and leave a main trainer, they can't automatically go and race at the big tracks because now you've got a second trainer who is on their own now. And you know what? I think that's fine because, again, the second trainer, you shouldn't be, I don't care if you're working for the biggest stable, on the planet. Like, if you work for Burke or, a Lard or Tact or whoever, like, it should be easy if you are a good trainer to leave Tactor and Burke, and it should be relatively easy to get that A license. I just want that buffer zone of prove yourself. Take the training wheels off, prove yourself.
And it's not, the guidelines that we're kind of like have in our head. It's not going to take you 5 years to get this accomplished. Like if you're really doing a good job, and if you're at the B track, so you should be able to win at a little higher clip. Mm-hmm. If you're a decent trainer, you should be able to do this in relatively short order. It's not going to happen in a week or two, but you can be able to do it in a short amount of time where it's not going to hinder your business that much. And the way I think the fear that some people have is, well, I'd have to only go to B tracks and I can only have B horses. So that's where, for me, I would want to maybe, a track can enter in an exception with with like a certain. Say you have one horse that's obviously not a B horse, and he's proven himself to not be a B horse. Then you can be allowed to bring that horse to a Yonkers or something like that. However, I would say it can't just be your first start with that horse, because then that goes right back into the beer thing. You have to be legitimately on that horse and the trainer of him at a different a B track before you can go to an A track with him.
Yeah, and the situation that you presented me, Jay, I think was perfect. Was what if a trainer at Vernon has 12 horses and they're all B horses, and he claims a horse and the program clicks, and this horse goes from, I don't know what the top class is at Vernon now, what is it, 8,000 or something like that. What if he goes and then he's in the Open and then he's winning the Open, and now he races out of the Open, and where he's getting handicapped and where they won't even let him race at the Open. That's the situation where I think that now you have a chance to take that horse who raced himself out of the B tracks. You literally have to race yourself out of the B tracks, because if you're a 15 claimer, they got those at B tracks. I'm not taking a 15 claimer at Yonkers. I'm sorry, you're not allowed to do that. We're talking about upper class horses that you've gotten that you just can't race at any B tracks. Is that fair enough, Jay?
Yeah, that's basically what I like to do. And it allows, if a guy wants to give you horses and he goes, well, you can only race at B tracks, like, no. If you have a good horse, I'm going to be able to get this exemption, and I'm going to be able to race that horse at an A track.
But we also feel that you can't just send that guy a horse and get that exemption. You have to. I kind of liken it to is if an owner wants to support a second trainer that's on his own, it's almost like a team drafting somebody, a young player, where you're going to say, very rarely, even LeBron James, even Kevin Garnett, Kobe Bryant, it took them a year or 2 or 3 before you really saw what they could do. So I think if you're supporting these second trainers that are going off on their own, you have to say to yourself, okay, this is going to be a year or 2 or 3 of growing pains, of them running their own stable and their business by themselves and doing it themselves. So they shouldn't have A horses right off the bat. They should have some B horses mixed with some A horses and allow the stable to grow. I can only imagine all of these trainers that get these horses right away and having success, that you need practice with the business model.
Yeah, and it's how it used to be. Let's look at my dad. He started out coming to Chicago as a groom and worked his way up where he had a few horses of his own. Then he had some people that gave him a few horses, and he only had cheap horses. And then all of a sudden, gets a little better, starts winning more, gets a few more horses, and he works his way all the way up. Now in the age of beards, we don't have that anymore. And it really has done a disservice to our business, where guys are, well, I'm not actually the trainer, but I'm covering for this guy, so I am listed as trainer, and now I have 6 horses that can fit the Opens at any of these A tracks, and I haven't had a horse to my name that's done well. That's just ridiculous. An owner should not want to give a guy that 6 quality Open horses that has no background.
Now here's another scenario that you brought up to me was what if a B trainer who is, trying to get every type of horse, maybe he got some overnight horses and he's got a small stable. He's got 4 horses, 5 horses, a couple of claimers, and he buys a yearling. He buys a He's Watching for $3,500, right? Now he trained that horse. He bred, he broke that horse. He got it all the way up. And this horse is a monster, right? Now the scenario is, well, should that horse be allowed to race in the A stakes if he's a monster? Now I think that initially no, because you're not a B trainer. But what I think too will help your weight, an overnight race should only be worth 9 points. A stakes race should be worth a lot more, even though it's a B track. Maybe a B track stake, a local state sire stakes, or some of these, late closer series. That should be worth more. So if you have a He's Watching at 2, right, you're not missing out on that much. Whereas if you do your job and you're a good trainer, race in some of these B stakes, get that extra points, and now a He's Watching can bring you into the fray and make you an A trainer. I just don't want horses transferred to this person and then just being able to go out and win 8. No, you got to earn a little bit.
With the stakes, I don't think I could get on board with this setup. I really think it's set really good for the condition races because you have to pay these horses into races, and yearlings are such a crapshoot. You just don't, you can buy a horse for nothing and he can turn into a hero immediately. It's not where like condition horses where we know what they are, we've seen what they are generally. Like yeah, you can improve them, but we have a general idea of what they are. With a 2-year-old, anybody can train anything. We've seen that time and time again. A guy that has no stable at all, he can have one great 2-year-old, and he can make his whole life on that. So I really don't want to inhibit that.
Well, but it's the thing that I kind of go to is, if you're a good trainer, right, you'll be fine. Like you're gonna be fine with this horse. The horse will show consistency, and that's kind of another thing that I want to. Maybe some trainers just aren't ready for some of these big stakes races. Maybe they could end up ruining the horse. And I think if you just have a slow burn and let this horse race in some low... isn't it great when a horse dominates at a small track and then comes to the big time? That's a story to me. And having the...
Yeah, but, you're only 2 once. That's the thing I like in it, too. I imagine if some beach somewhere wasn't allowed to race in the Breeders' Crown at 2, that would have been a massive disservice to everybody.
Well, but what I'm saying is I don't think that it will hinder the Breeders' Crown. If this horse is good, I'm saying that in, 4 or 5 starts that you'll be able to be... And maybe you won't get enough for the trainer's points, but I think maybe you can get some sort of exemption, and maybe it is 4 or 5 starts maybe there's some sub where this horse has to earn points to get into A races. Maybe the individual horse has to do it, where hey, if you win or if you gain, a horse has to gain 50 points to become an A horse. Maybe we could take it one step further instead of the trainer. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm fine with in that terms of earning it up, and generally the horses will do that anyways. Most 2-year-olds, they'll race in the sire stakes a few times, prove that they're a top quality horse. By that time the Grand Circuit race starts, and you'll probably have your points. If you're a really truly top 2-year-old, you'll have won 2 or 3, 4 races before a Peter Houghton or a Metro comes up to race in. And I don't think if you're a good horse, you'll have already proven your worth there.
Here's another thing that I would like to avoid is I'm okay with everybody paying in to a stakes race, right? You pay as a yearling, you make your 2-year-old payments that everybody just made in February. You kind of know what horses are. What I don't want is a horse, how many times have we seen it in these final races, where horses don't belong. They don't even have a win sometimes, and they're entered in some of the biggest races in the world. That is something that we need, that I want to see eliminated. There's been times, the Yonkers Trot with Marion Marauder, there were 4 horses in there that didn't deserve to be even on the track with Marion Marauder, let alone in the same race. So I think that having maybe a sort of subclass for some of these horses, like just because you paid into the stakes program, doesn't mean you should be able to enter the race. And I know owners are going to throw them, I paid into it, I deserve. No, you don't. We need to protect our races a little bit more and get some of these horses, some of these Breeders' Crown eliminations were garbage because people just decided, I paid in, so I deserve to be in the race. No, you don't.
If this could get away with elimination races, I would be more than all happy for it. I would much rather just have it tiered where, okay, you had 20 horses enter, and by that time of the year, everybody's proven what they are, and here's your 10 horses that should be in the final, and the rest of you can go in the consolation, and you'll be properly classified instead of getting your head kicked in one week in a terrible betting race.
Yeah, so overall, I think, listen, we didn't tweak out all of the, we didn't tweak everything, and we didn't finalize everything, but this is just an idea. Again, it's the thing that I think, too, that can be really cool is when a trainer is approaching the B or the A ranking, right? So the trainer has, 15 wins and he's got a training average of 330 at, Saratoga or Northfield or wherever you want to say. And he's starting to get a little steam, and we've set the bar, I don't know, at 1,000 points, whatever it is. And he's approaching that mark. that's a story. That's something now that we can say, hey,
Yeah.
look at this guy. Look at this guy who would never normally be promoted because he just only won 15 races at Monticello. It's like, no, he's approaching his A ranking, and we can promote that. And then the first couple of starts, hey, how did he do in the A track with the A horses? It's another way to help promote the sport and give everybody that's in the middle some more shine and spotlight.
It's really hard to find stories in condition races because it just seems to be the same thing over and over. So you can add a little wrinkle into it, add a little something that grabs somebody's attention. It's going to do good for the sport. It's something you can actually talk about when you're talking about the non-winners of 4,000 at whatever track you want to look at. You actually have a reason to watch it and a reason to write about it and a reason to put it on social media.
Yeah, and then going back to, we've solved beards once again. We gave another way to solve beards that no track wants to implement. Listen, if somebody wants to give their horses to a trainer and they want to set up a business model, and we've talked about paperwork and trainer tests and all these things like that. If they've set up a business model where they've won at B tracks and they've had this domination, and then there's still a beard when it gets to them being an A, I'm not necessarily against them. They kind of earned the A ranking coming up through even though they're a beard. So it's not necessarily, I know it's not the greatest thing, but at least we've cut out that initial just, okay, well, he's suspended, well, now we can give it to this guy.
Yeah, that's the one that's always just a slap in the face, where you obviously saw the guy get suspended a month ago, and all of a sudden there's this guy with these same exact horses popping up out of nowhere and killing everybody.
Yeah, and with my system, I would like to make it where it's a 6 month to a year kind of thing, and maybe we can add in that sub thing with horses. If you have a good horse, maybe if you win a certain number of races in a stakes, you've earned a sponsor's exemption or whatever you want to call it. But I would like to see, because I know that I made mistakes as a trainer, and I'm sure every trainer going out on their own, when you're young or old or whatever, you make mistakes that if I had some restrictions, if I never was able to race at Yonkers or Meadowlands or Pocono from the beginning, and I just had to focus on Monticello and Saratoga and Tioga, I would have probably had a little bit more success early on versus, taking a couple of years to get up, to where, I won 20% of my races. So all those early mistakes, everybody's going to make them. And I think if we can restrict that, you'll see a little bit less mistakes, and you'll be able to grow a little bit better as a trainer.
Yeah, I really, a lot of times there's a reason to be held back and a reason to not stretch yourselves too far. There's plenty of trainers in this business who they got too big for themselves too quickly, and they flamed out in a heartbeat, and that's a shame. It wasn't anything like nefarious or wrong or anything. It's just that they just got overwhelmed by how stressful and tough the top tier of this business can be, and maybe something like this would give them the time to really get adjusted and fine-tune their program.
Yeah, their business model, their training program. Slow burn. Sometimes slow burn is okay. It's okay, and it gives us just a little bit more to promote and a little bit more to talk about. So, anything else? Do we want to put a bow on this, Jay?
Yeah, I think we're good.
So, anything else, or we're good?
Nah, I think we can sign off.
Okay, perfect. So I'm Ryan Macedonio. Everything is at Trotcast. Visit trotcast.com. Jay, I think my block list is up to about 150 people. Yeah, I'm getting there.
Yeah, we actually got our first stick to sports comment on one of our videos this week.
Oh, I love the stick to sports, and I love when So I love. I'm starting to block a lot of people. I guess it's good when you have when I have that big of a block list. There's a lot of people sending me private messages and talking to me. So hey, listen, what's your block list up to, Jay?
Oh, I embrace the hate.
You embrace the.
I just love to argue so much. I love banging my head against a wall. So it's just, I love it. I'll just keep going at him.
The reason why I block certain people is I just don't want the notifications. That's all I want. I'm just trying.
I can see that.
If you're just going in there, and I will. A lot of times I'm neutral on these subjects that we talk about. I know you're probably neutral on some of them too, and it's like, yeah, let's just have some fun and embrace the debate, and pick a side and go that way. But the people that are just trying to just clutter up everything, I got no use for you. So you can still visit everything on Trotcast.com. I'm sure people that I blocked are still watching this video right now.
Oh yeah, if they care enough, they'll find a way.
They'll find out. But the greatest thing is tell all your friends how much I suck as a person and get them to watch all of our videos. And then you guys go on, private message each other and tell everybody how we suck. But keep watching because watching is what helps us, really. That's the funny part about the whole thing. They keep, 10 minutes of video comes out and I got a comment from some people. It's like, okay, well, you obviously are sitting here waiting to hate on us.
Yeah. You whether you like it or not, you're doing me a favor by keeping it on top of the news feed. So thank you.
So thank you. The greatest way to affect anybody is straight apathy. So that's when I don't care about a person and I block them. That's the biggest insult. So Jade, take us home.
I am Jay Hoxeller. You can find me on Twitter @JDHarness. Thanks for listening and join the revolution.